All right, I'd like to welcome everyone here today. Earlier this afternoon, after a 4-day trial in front of Judge Goodwin, a federal jury convicted Larry Allen Clay, age 57 of Fayetteville, in connection with sex trafficking of a 17-year-old minor female. Evidence at the trial proved that on two separate occasions, Clay, who was employed both by the Fayette County Sheriff's Department as a deputy, as well as chief of police for the Gauley Bridge Police Department, rendered payments of $50 to the co-defendant in this case, Kristen Naylorleg, to have sex with a 17-year-old minor female. In the first incident, Clay remained in his Gauley Bridge police uniform during the entire sexual encounter. The second incident took place inside the old Gauley Bridge High School in a location accessible to a limited number of people, including the Gauley Bridge Police Department. Law enforcement authorities were able to retrieve DNA evidence from towels and paper towels discarded in the room where the second incident took place. In September of 2020, Clay sought to persuade his co-defendant, Naylorleg, from speaking to law enforcement about the incidents, and also asked a fellow law enforcement officer if his criminal conduct could be covered up. The jury ended up finding the defendant guilty of conspiracy to engage in sex trafficking of a minor via coercion, sex trafficking of a minor by coercion ×2, and 2 counts of obstruction of justice. He faces a statutory penalty of 15 years to life. I would like to recognize the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, who is present today here through Pat Kelly and Brian Morris, as well as representatives of the state police, and also the Fayette County Sheriff's Department, who participated in this investigation. The young victim in this case was very brave. I sit and watched her testimony in this trial. She was able to stand up and tell a story about how this, and these were not, there's a, via coercion. These were not acts that she participated in willingly. She's a very brave young woman, gave very heartfelt testimony, and had a very, she had a very tough life up until this point. Her mother died, I believe, when she was 14. She didn't have a lot of family members to watch out for her. In fact, the co-defendant, Kristen Naylorleg, was her stepmother. The story's horrific. She's very brave. I actually have a quote from her that I'm going to grab for you in just a moment. I left it in my office in there. But I do want to read that quote before it's done. The co-defendant, Naylorleg, pled guilty to the crime of conspiracy to engage in sex trafficking of a minor. Her sentencing is set on May 11th at 10 a.m. Mr. Clay's sentencing is set on July 20th at 10 a.m. I'd like to congratulate the trial team. We had AUSA's Jenny Harold and Monica Coleman from my office conducted the trial. There was a lot of work go into this matter. And if you can excuse me for one moment, I want to grab, there we go, thank you. I want to read the quote from the victim, because I think her words are more powerful than anything I could say. And this direct quote from her: "Never let the fear of striking out keep you from playing the game. I've seen that saying and used it in so many ways. Don't give up because things get difficult. Just because things get scary doesn't mean that they always end badly. Bad things happen to good people. But at the end of the day, the truth always comes to light. Always speak up. Someone will hear you eventually." I think that's a very powerful statement, and I think it's also very appropriate because we didn't schedule it this week, but this trial actually happened during the National Crime Victims' Rights Week, and the theme for this year's Crime Victim Rights Weeks is Survivor Voices, Elevate, Engage, and Effect Change. And if you could have watched this young lady testify and then interact with her after the verdict, it was incredible. She was incredibly brave. I cannot say enough. Fayette County, the sheriff's office there, even though this was a member of their own department, they handled this case very appropriately. They then turned it over to state police, who then sought the help of Homeland Security. But the true hero in this case is the victim, for being able to come forward at a time, this is tough. This is a guy in a uniform police officer, chief of police, and to be able to come forward with this horrific crime and stand tough. This has been a couple-year process. So if there's ever a poster child and a poster case for National Crime Victims Week, this case is it. Check through my notes to make sure I've got everything I wanted to say. That being said, any questions? I think I can, but I've got some help here if I can. Okay. The original act happened, both of, I believe, was June of 2020. I believe they were about 4 to 5 days apart. Obviously, it happened. The first one happened when he was in his Gauley Bridge police uniform. And then the second one happened, I don't believe he was in uniform, but I believe he was on duty at the time. Might have been on duty both times. He was on duty both times.
And in uniform.
And in uniform both times. Thank you. That happened in June. The defendant tried to get his co-defendant to keep from speaking to law enforcement because that time the victim had already started to reach out. And from then, there was a lot of litigation involved in this case until today when we got to conclusion of the jury verdict.
You spoke a little bit about the bravery of this teenager. What did that mean to be able to get this conviction?
Conviction came from her. We needed her testimony in order for this to happen. And the fact that she was strong enough and brave enough to speak out, to bring this to law enforcement's attention, should stand as a symbol for every other victim in a case such as this, that it is the right thing to do, to speak out, to bring it to the attention. And I can't compliment law enforcement enough on this matter, because this was one of their own. This was a person wearing a uniform. And the fact that they were able to take this case seriously, from the Fayette County Sheriff's Office to the state police, all the way to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, speaks volumes. Other questions? We couldn't get him here quick enough, but I do have a quote from the sheriff if you would like for me to read that. This is Sheriff Mike Friendly, Fridley. And his quote reads, "It doesn't matter what position of authority you hold, you will be held accountable if you abuse the position. No one is above the law. With great teamwork seen in this case, another predator has been taken off our streets." Any other questions?
So you said there were
Two people. One had pled back in September of 21. She did testify at this trial, and she pled guilty in September 2021. Her sentencing is set on May 11th at 10 a.m. in front of Judge Goodwin. And she was the stepmother of the victim, who essentially was taking $50 for him to have sex with her. Okay. Anything else? I hope to see you back at the sentencing. We'll probably hold another press conference then. These are the type of cases that, while no one enjoys doing these cases, that I feel very proud to be able to be part of this office, to be able to prosecute and hold people in power accountable. Thank you very much.